Hi, everyone, and welcome to Workforce Wow Coffee Breaks, a series dedicated to bringing you the latest trends and strategies for tackling the greatest challenges in post-acute care, including retention, turnover, training, compliance, and more. And because we know providers do not have much time to spare, we're going to do it all in 15 minutes or less, about the same time it takes to finish a cup of coffee. So go ahead and fill up your favorite mug, and let's dive in. I'm Carrie Rosenberger, and I am the Senior Director of Marketing at showd.me. Our topic today is Recruitment Reality Check, what's really moving the needle in today's hiring market. So today I am joined by David Pardo, Community Strategist at Apploi. David, to kick things off, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Apploi.
Sure. It's great to be here. Big fan of showd.me and a big fan of Carrie for, I think, years now. Apploi and me, I run community and growth at Apploi. We tend to think of the way we grow actually is through community. We are thankfully really entrenched in a lot of the various healthcare verticals to the point where our growth is through existing customers saying nice things about us. And I often go to shows and see prospects who already know who we are. So my role is to develop business and create new opportunities for leads and revenue through the wonderful community that we've already cultivated and continue to.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us again here today. To kick things off, what hiring trends do you think are the most misunderstood in healthcare today?
Yeah, that's a fun one, and it's fun. I get to talk to lots of customers and prospects, and kind of hear you start with what are your pain points, and I'd say a lot of people are focused on we're not getting enough applicants, and what they really mean is that they're getting too many applicants, and they're not the right kind of applicants, and they're just not managing their conversion properly. So. Hiring is a pipeline, kind of like most things in life, if you like operations a lot. And you're getting people at the top of the funnel, and you need to figure out how to move and progress them to the next. Just because you like them and you think you have something good to offer doesn't mean that they're not shopping at 10 other places.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we hear all the time, when anyone's applying for a job, you typically don't just target one place. And with the talent market being so saturated, yeah, they're probably applying at 5 to 10 places, easy, depending on where they're located.
Yeah,
So,
and the good ones are going to be in a buyer position, not in a they're the ones shopping. Um,
exactly.
So you always have to figure out who's the buyer, who's the seller in
Yeah.
an interaction.
So, given that, the role of technology in the hiring process continues to evolve and can really help to add some standardization to that funnel, right? But what do you think technology can realistically replace, and then what can't it replace?
I am a huge technology optimist. I have never been scared of oh no, this new thing is going to replace. It's not. I think one of the most instructive things I saw once is a chart that showed the number of bookkeepers in America, like as a job category per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and like the introduction of Excel, first VisiCalc and then Excel, and how it drops off, and you're like, oh my god, Excel killed the bookkeeper position. But then you can plot a second, which is a second line is the financial analyst position, and that zooms up because there's not really a role for a financial analyst if you're not, just managing sort of the lowest level of understanding where the money's in, where the money's out. Once you're able to handle all that, because now the computer's doing it for you, you've opened up the ability to understand your finances in a much more sophisticated kind of way. I think that that is the main point, and everything else is downstream of there. So the role of technology will replace, but it's not going to replace people. People will always be people. It'll replace certainly at this point easily tedious tasks, things that you don't really like to do, things that are occupying the lowest rungs of your brain. You don't need AI for that. We can automate things. We can check things off. So it won't replace it won't replace the best and the highest forms of creativity. And I don't mean creativity in the artistic sense. I mean of being able to create real things. AI still can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't quite have that creative touch to it yet. But speaking of AI and automation, how do you think that could potentially reshape hiring in long-term care?
Yeah. So again, you're never going to have relationships with AI the way you will with people. I do anthropomorphize my own instance of ChatGPT, no question. But I'm also, I like sometimes this is mean. I'm gonna say I scroll down LinkedIn and I'm like, he wrote that, didn't write that. Definitely ChatGPT. Like, oh, you didn't even prompt well. Like that's terrible. Um, yeah. So in the short term, AI is going to replace tasks and things that people didn't want to do in tedious things, parsing resumes, flagging missing certifications, routing candidates. We'll automate all of that, and you'll be able to use natural language processing for that. In the long term, AI is going to help recruiters score soft skills, use language and interaction patterns, think about being able to understand what a nurse's bedside manner is from things that they've written online, being able to extrapolate elements of your personality. Um, Avi posted actually this morning. I thought it was like 100% on, like no more dashboards. You will just be able to actually communicate directly with your data through the medium of AI. So long term, like things that we just can barely imagine now. And this is a big but, and like underscore this: AI cannot fix a bad org. You cannot run a bad organization and then pay a vendor to bring in a tool that will like clean things up. If your workplace sucks, no bot will save your staffing. AI is just a megaphone for the system that you have already built.
Yeah, and I think that's a really sharp point that AI is meant to assist, but it can only assist based on a solid foundation that already exists, right? Um, Shifting gears here a little bit, I feel like probably in the last 5 years, the term ghosting all came into our lives, right? I feel like at first it was, folks who were on Tinder and things like that, getting ghosted on dates. But now we're talking more about this no shows or ghosting within the hiring process.
Did
What
we
do you
stop
think?
talking about quiet quitting? Is that over?
Um, I heard quiet quitting was replaced with something else, but I can't recall what it
Oh, that was
was.
hot
But
for a minute. Yeah.
quiet quitting was big for a while
Yeah.
during the last couple of
COVID.
years.
I think
Yeah,
it was an element of remote work. But yeah, let's talk about
yeah.
ghosting.
But
So I'm letting
ghosting, no shows, they apply, you think they're going to show up to orientation, and then it's over. Or they apply, you think they're going to show up to the interview, crickets. So what do you feel is really driving this trend, and how can organizations best respond?
I can't, like, I have so many feelings that I couldn't put into 15 minutes. I'm glad that you started with Tinder, because it's important that we lifted this term from the world of dating, because first of all, in a certain way, like recruiting is, this is going to be a soundbite, I'm going to get in trouble, but it is like it's a version of dating. I'm checking you out, you're checking, the employer, the employee. Is this like a good option for both of us? And I think ghosting comes from the same place, which is um, uh, people in 2025 are afraid to commit. There's so many downstream examples of this, like the fact that you don't sign contracts for a year anymore. I mean, not with an employer, you maybe still do that, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people are at will, but also I'm saying your services are all month to month, and it's all about the upsell. People have a hard time committing. They're really looking for the next best thing, and they don't feel this like noblesse oblige obligation that they need to show up to the job. Like, this is for this, you owe me something. So if they find a better job, they're just going to move on. Again, they're in the buyer position.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't see us coming out of that trend anytime soon. I mean, I think even before the pandemic, it was tough to hire in this industry, and pandemic made it just 10 times worse. And we're starting to see a recovery in most sectors, but I don't know if it'll ever keep pace given the growing demand. Do you think that, we hear
I'll
about,
just say I'll just say one more thing, is
yeah,
that on that, to respond to that point, is that the labor needs are going to continue to outpace the labor supply. Like the demand is outpacing the supply, and I don't know if we're talking specifically now to senior living or skilled nursing or aging populations specifically, but we like the population chart in this country is not good. Baby boomers are retiring. Baby boomers need help, and there's not enough help in the pipeline. So good staff, good labor, good nurses, good aides, they will continue to be in the driver's seat, and all the more so. We will do our best to augment their efforts with AI, but you just can't replace like a human being who's taking care of another human being, which places the onus on the providers and the operators listening here to provide the best possible experience in recruiting.
When I think too, then that speaks to kind of where I want to shift next is this idea of the candidate experience, right? We always talk about the employee experience, the candidate experience. What does candidate experience really mean in the context of post-acute care?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question. It's an important question for recruiters, and kind of like back to the lens of a date. Like both sides are checking each other out, and you have to make sure as the recruiter or as HR or as the operator that you need to provide the best possible experience for the person. It's not a fluffy phrase. It's real, and it translates into actual conversion. So it means respecting their time. Don't reschedule on them. Don't like play around. Make it human. Use their name. Send them thank yous, and clarity, real clarity, like pay rate, shift, expectations. No smoke and mirrors. And you want to do speed with dignity. Like a lot of times, like I said before, they're recruiting, they are applying to 10 different places, and sometimes the person that wins is not the person who pays the most. It's just the person who got back to them on time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And especially today when you can, it's so easy to apply from your mobile phone, right? These people could be applying at lunchtime and have heard back from 3 people by the time their shift ends, right? So it's like being on top of that and letting people know where they stand in the process. I mean, I can imagine the amount of times throughout my career where it's like, it's just, you don't ever hear anything back. And you're like, well, it's kind of rude, So I think especially in this industry, it's like taking that extra step to acknowledge like, you're a candidate, you're important to us. And it's like you said, it's transparency, it's communication. It's not super time consuming. It's not super complex.
Yeah, it's just being like a decent person. This person's deciding whether to spend like 45, 50 hours a week around you. So that's part of their calculus.
Yeah. And it helps to set the tone, right? Like what kind of organization are you? If you're ignoring me, maybe that's not where I want to work.
Sure. This is the vanguard of their relationship with the company, and will definitely determine things like quiet quitting down the way.
Exactly. So let's dive into our next question. So I want to talk a little bit about metrics. There's always this talk of, you should have your process, standardize it, and then measure it. When it really comes to tracking your hiring and recruitment efforts, what do you think are the most important metrics to track? And then which do you feel are the most overrated?
That's fun. I think there is overrating, underrating. I definitely think that being cognizant of like setting up your dashboard until we have AI replace that is important. You got to study, whatever doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. But I'd say an overrated metric, I just wrote about this on LinkedIn, is time to hire. People want to know like how fast did you get the person in the door and signed and in training. And the reason it's overrated is because it has an ugly twin metric called quick quits. So it's great if you hire someone really quickly and then they quit within the next 90 days. Is just not anything to if you're not studying both of those, that means that you don't really understand the unintended second order consequences of pushing people through quickly. You're not studying, you're not assessing them, you're not figuring out if they're right for the organization, and you're not sort of setting tones and expectations. An underrated, I'd say, candidate drop off between each step. So I was saying before that the whole thing's a pipeline, from like coming into your inbox until like the letter of hire. If you can't track where you're losing people in the funnel, then you can't fix the funnel. So sometimes it's the application. Maybe people aren't applying in the first place because the application's actually too complicated and it's too much friction. Sometimes it's delay in communication. Sometimes you're not getting back to them fast enough. Maybe it's the follow-up post-interview. You won't know until you actually study that. And then if you're trying to fix the whole thing without realizing it's this thing that needs to be fixed, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah, exactly. And I like this idea of the quick quit, because I think that can, you know, you can start to examine then, like, well, how are we really evaluating people once we get them into the interview process? As much as you may need team members on the floor and caregivers out in the field, sometimes it's not the most important thing, because it's going to cost you more in the long run to not take that step to really kind of evaluate folks and see if they're going to be a fit long term, for both for your organization, but also for them. So to wrap up here, I guess I want to say, if there's one takeaway from this conversation that you want providers to remember, what would that be?
Could I do two?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're casual here.
Yeah. Okay. The rules would have to get this signed off. I'd say two things that I think are really important. One is technology specific. AI will not replace anything. The people who understand how to use AI will replace everyone else. Cannot be pessimistic about this kind of stuff. And your favorite lawmakers are not going to regulate it enough. It just won't happen. So figure out how to get on top of it, use it, and you're going to produce more and better and be happier. Is number one. And number two is to think of the recruitment process as two-sided. You're scoping out the candidate and the candidate is scoping out you. So what are you doing to not just to fetter them out and fess them out and see what who they really are and if they're really suitable, but what are you doing to also put your best foot forward and to come across as a great place to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I love those takeaways. Well, thank you, David, for being here and for this great lively discussion. And thank you to all the providers who are listening in. For more information on how Apploi's all-in-one workforce management platform can help you attract, hire, and manage your employees, you can visit them at www.apploi.com. Be sure to check them out if you are looking for any assistance with hiring and recruiting. And once you have all of your new hires onboarded, showd.me is always here to help you by delivering the annual training that they need. So unlike other LMS systems, we're not going to just abandon you with a course library. We're actually going to develop your curriculum, deliver it straight to your employees, and monitor it to make sure it all gets done. So if you want to learn more about what makes showd.me unique, please visit us at www.showd.me. Thank you again to everyone for tuning in to our Workforce Wow Coffee Break series, where small sips lead to big impacts.
Love that. Carrie, thanks for having me. Thanks for being a great interviewer.
Yeah, thanks so much.